you ever wondered what secrets might lurk in your own home? My husband George and I have been happily married for over 10 years now. We've always been on the same wavelength, and we didn't have secrets from one another. George is a family man. He loves me, and I had no doubts that he had always been faithful to me. But then, one day, everything changed. Is it possible for the most loving partner to hide something? One day, I had to go on a long and exhausting business trip to another state. I was away for 8 days, and all this time George and I spoke a lot on the phone and texted each other in messengers. I was pretty much sure he missed me, just like I did. And then, just moments later, when I returned home, the first thing I did was take a shower because it was hot outside, and I was sweating profusely. So I went to the bathroom instantly after I got home from the airport. I opened one of the drawers in the bathroom and saw 4 tampons lying there, right on top of my personal things. They didn't belong to me. I was dumbfounded. This will blow your mind, but the only person who could actually explain the origin of these tampons was George. So, without delay, I rushed to him with these tampons in my hand and insisted that he must tell me where they came from. But he was in denial. He just opened his eyes wide and said something like, "Why would a man know anything about tampons that are meant for women? I thought they were yours." Unbeknownst to me, I was absolutely shocked, but having received no clear explanation from my husband, I decided not to make a huge problem out of this incident. Apart from that, I was tired after my trip, so I just let it go. Yet, even though I tried to ignore it, even more weird things started happening in our house. A few months ago, I started noticing tiny droplets of blood that were splattered on our bathroom floor and around the toilet. To everyone's surprise, I instantly remembered the tampons I kept finding occasionally in our bathroom. I confronted George again, this time about the bloodstains, and he said again that he had no clue about their origin. And then, out of nowhere, one day, I found 2 more tampons in our house. This time, they were placed in my husband's drawer near our bed, where he usually keeps his glasses, his pocketbooks, and his other stuff. This was the last straw. I called him and showed him the tampons again, and he started rambling, then told me he had terrible nosebleeds and used these tampons to stop the bleeding. I didn't believe a single word he was saying because I did know he had an allergy that caused him severe allergic rhinitis, but throughout our whole life together, he didn't have a single nosebleed before. In that moment, I decided to install a camera inside our bathroom and in our bedroom too. Of course, I didn't tell George about that, and I even pretended to believe what he was saying about his nosebleeds. I then went on another business trip when, in fact, I was staying for 3 days at my parents'. I wanted him to be relaxed about everything and to give himself away. And very soon after, I came back from my business trip and waited for George to leave home so that I could monitor the video recordings from the cameras. When I started watching them, at first, there was nothing criminal except for him eating in bed, which I totally hated him doing. But then, I saw how George was applying some nose spray and then blowing his nose. He then got visibly annoyed. I guess he mumbled something like, "Oh no, again," and took a tampon from his drawer, then used it to stop the nosebleed he was obviously having after blowing his nose. To my utter astonishment, George was telling the truth when he was explaining to me that he had nosebleeds. But I was concerned about the conspiracy George created over the whole thing. So suddenly I waited for him to come back home and asked him the questions straightforwardly. In a twist of fate, it turned out that George bought some nasal spray for relieving his allergy. Before that, he used to take pills for this purpose, but this time he decided to try something new. He didn't read the instructions that came together with the spray and was using it randomly in profuse amounts. This led to him having these nosebleeds. He didn't want to tell me that he was having an issue with this spray because he didn't want me to start preaching to him about the thing he usually does that irritates me all our life together. George never reads the instructions for anything he buys. He just uses everything based on his intuition, and it has led to many awkward things happening to him before. This time, he did what he usually does. He threw the instructions in the garbage bin and used the spray without reading it. I was mad and relieved at the same time. With that being said, starting from that day, I double-checked George's medications and the way he takes them. And here's the story of a witty woman who used a tampon that she found in her boyfriend's room to investigate and see if he was cheating on her. Did you know that? Sometimes, The smallest clues can lead to the biggest discoveries.